All right. Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this edition of the 42Q Partner Connect webinar series. So today we're going to be talking with one of our partners, Glassdome. We're going to be taking a look at how to go from shop floor to sustainability and how using the 42Q MES to gather all of the manufacturing data as you're manufacturing your products, and then turn around and use that information with the Glassdome product to report on your product carbon footprint. And that's becoming more and more critical these days, depending on where your products are going to. So we've got one of our partners with us that's going to talk a little bit about that today. All right, so we'll go through and do some introductions so you can understand who I am and who our partner is that we're meeting with today. And then TJ is going to go through and tell us a little bit about product carbon footprint, kind of the importance, some of the differences to look for, and then a lot of the data that goes into there. And then at the end, we'll talk about the 42Q and Glassstone partnership and kind of why it makes sense and all this manufacturing data that you're gathering as part of the manufacturing process in 42Q. And then at the end, we'll have some time for Q&A. And speaking of that, if you have any questions as we're going along, click the Q&A button down at the bottom, and then this window will pop up, and you can post any questions you have there too. And I forgot to mention too, for all of those of you that are seeing this on LinkedIn live stream, you can post any questions that you have there as well, and we'll address those at the end of the webinar too. All right, so myself, I am Bobby Hanna, the Training and Technical Writing Manager here at 42Q. So I've been working in the technical training space for over 20 years. I started my career in the U.S. Army as a technician, and then that kind of got me into the training role from there. I lead the training and technical writing teams here at 42Q. So my job is to make sure that our customers understand how to use the product and how to get the most value out of it. And from our partner Glassstone, we've got TJ Yoon with us. He's the Director of Global Business. So TJ, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Bobby. My name is TJ, everyone, and I'm the Director of Global Business here at Glassdome. I'm based in Munich, Germany. I've been working at Glassdome for about 3 years now. Started my career here as a product manager, a partnership manager, turned into a product manager, and then now I'm back in sales, overseeing our global sales initiatives. Thanks for joining, and then I'm very excited to talk about our partnership today.
All right, great. Appreciate you being with us today, TJ. All right, so to start this off, do you want to kind of explain to everyone a little bit about, I know especially if you're shipping products to the European market, this is becoming, not just a nice to have, it's becoming a lot of a requirement. So do you kind of want to go through and understand why PCF is so important right now?
Sure thing. So most of us know that globally there is a lot of carbon related disputes or anything like that. But in reality, it's still ongoing in Europe as a regulation. And then the regulation has been evolving since 2019. So in 2019, EU has set on a Green Deal saying that carbon neutrality will be positioned as their core policy lever for turning climate risk into an industrial opportunity for them. And then it then became a more specific initiative called Fit for 55. And then now what we're seeing in the market is that the European regulations are shaping towards requiring PCF, product carbon footprint, so that they can. So these regulations, what they do is they require any manufacturers or any party that's selling products in EU to submit a carbon declaration or environmental declaration, so that the environmental impact of those products could be tracked and calculated. And at the end of the day, what they intend to do is they intend to um, classify the numbers and make class out of the numbers that you provide. And then if you're at a lower class, they would be booting you out from the market because you're, generating a lot of carbon in the world. It's you can think of it as like a nutrition class, A to F. What they're going to do is like they're going to penalize the products that are generating more carbon than the others, and then make sure that it gets labeled in that way, and then they're going to be, kicking them out of the market one by one. I think we can go on to the next slide to talk about PCF. Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to talk a little bit about the differences between we're talking about carbon footprint and then down to the individual level at the product carbon footprint level.
Right. So one of the things that a lot of the companies or a lot of the people who are working on this topic or is new to this topic gets a bit confused is the difference between corporate carbon footprint and product carbon footprint. We've heard a lot about corporate carbon footprint, how you have a lot of different data that you need to collect and calculate, such as your employees' travels or something like that. But these two are very different concepts. So I'm gonna go through it one by one. So corporate carbon footprint, it looks at the total greenhouse gas emissions of the entire company over 1 year. Whereas product carbon footprint, you only look at specific product manufacturing practices. And then sometimes, depending on your system boundary, you would have to look into your use phase and then this an end of life phase. So basically, corporate carbon footprint only looks at your corporate activities, but product carbon footprint only looks at your specific manufactured goods. So naturally, the scope of corporate carbon footprint is looking at the big picture, whereas product carbon footprint is looking at a very detailed analysis of that manufacturing good. And main goal of corporate carbon footprinting is setting the strategy and reporting for macro targets. So companies like Watershed or Persephone, they help you calculate corporate carbon footprint to set the target, report it to specific regulation that's requiring corporate carbon footprinting, such as CSRD, yada, yada, yada. But product carbon footprint, what you do is you calculate it and then it actually drives actions and designing. So goal is to calculate and then start figuring out where to lower the carbon emissions, target it, and then reduce it going forward. And then the metric, when you look at the metric, I think it gets very obvious about the difference between the two. For the metric, the corporate carbon footprint only talks about total CO2 equivalent over 1 year, over a certain period of time. But product carbon footprint, you look at CO2 equivalent per unit. So when you manufacture your good, how much carbon footprint was generated in manufacturing that specific good, whether that be your cell phone or your battery or your speaker, you name it. So to sum it up, corporate carbon footprint tells us where you are strategically. Product carbon footprint tells you how to act tactically going forward.
Thanks, TJ. All right, so now, kind of talk about, a little bit more of the importance on why focus on this product level.
Mhm. Yeah, so over the years, the more and more regulations and even the OEMs have started to require their suppliers or manufacturers to provide product carbon footprint rather than corporate carbon footprint. I'm not saying that corporate carbon footprint is not needed anymore. It's more like the strategic shift has been moving more towards regulating on the product carbon footprint on a manufacturing industry. And there are three specific reasons why there is this shift. One is um, what the first part is that in order for you to lower your carbon footprint, you need a detailed picture of your product, and that's why the regulation is starting to require product carbon footprint calculation. When you calculate product carbon footprint, you have to figure out what kind of how much carbon is emitted during different phases of your production, such as material gathering, actual manufacturing, transportation, so on and so forth. So you will know where is the biggest impact on your carbon once you calculate product carbon footprint. So it can give you a clear driver on where to lower your carbon. Second point is that corporate carbon footprint is not comparable between the two companies who are manufacturing same products, but product carbon footprint lets you compare the two different products apples to apples. So let's say there's a company A and company B who manufactures same product, but company A innately has a bigger size than company B. In that case, corporate carbon footprint would be much bigger for company A than company B, so they cannot be compared. But if you go down to the product level of what they're manufacturing, these products could be compared apples to apples based on their product carbon footprinting. And even though company A might be bigger, they might be generating smaller product carbon footprint for that specific product. And that's a big that gives a very big impact to their OEMs or to their clients. So that's why it's becoming a standardized way of comparing two different carbon footprinting for products. So regulation and OEMs are more asking more for product level carbon emissions. Last but not least, it's similar to the first point. Once you figure out the key drivers, that's when you can start thinking about how to reduce it, right? So this is why it's being more and more required. Like I said before, it's going to be put into categorized into class, and you're just not going to stop when you are categorized as C or D. Your goal is to improve to B or A class, right? So without calculating product carbon footprint, you won't be able to target your reduction because you won't have the actual specific data for your product. So given that product level carbon data is actionable, comparable, it's being increasingly a standard requirement in major regulations and then from the OEMs as well.
Thanks, TJ. All right, so now on to talking about, and it's very difficult because I know there's a lot of different components that go into
Right.
this. So you want to talk about why it's very difficult to kind of calculate an accurate PCF.
Right. So, product carbon footprint, like I said, is very detailed view about your product's carbon emission. And because of that, you need a lot of data to be inside in calculating your product carbon footprint. So starting from your raw material usage to electricity usage, utilities such as water, gas, to your waste information, transportation, all these information are needed in calculating your product carbon footprint, but all these data actually live in different sources, such as ERP, MES, PLC, your sensors, your SCADA. Depending on your setting of your factory, the data that's required in calculating PCF is actually dispersed all over your shop floor. So that's the reason why it's hard to calculate PCF accurately in the first place. Secondly, um, calculating product carbon footprint requires a specific knowledge called life cycle assessment. And there is not a lot of professionals who are out there who understand life cycle assessment well. That's the first thing. But at the same time, each manufacturing goods and then each product has their own specific product category rule. So understanding both LCA and your product category rule is very crucial in calculating your PCF accurately. But lots of manufacturers do not have that capability or personnel who can do that in-house. So for a manufacturer to actually take on that task, it's becoming very difficult for them to actually do it. And at the end of the day, these regulations or even OEMs are asking their suppliers to provide a verified product carbon footprint, and going through that verification is another story. Calculating is one, but going through it using the standards that you used is very difficult, and that's why a lot of the manufacturers are struggling to calculate PCF in an accurate manner. And last but not least, as you can imagine, your product carbon footprint actually depends heavily on your supplier's product carbon footprint because you're sourcing the raw materials from your suppliers, and their carbon emission gets actually come to your carbon emission as well. So you need to collect your supplier's data, and then their supplier needs to collect their supplier's data, and then because of this, you also have to provide your data to your OEM so that OEM could calculate PCF well. So carbon data should flow in supply chain well for everyone to calculate their PCF in an accurate manner. But this is not really happening at that moment at this moment because, well, first of all, not a lot of people are calculating PCF. That's one thing. The other thing is there's no standardized way of sharing the data. Right now, it's just asking via email to get a PDF, and then everybody just types that in again to your software or again to your Excel file. So carbon data not flowing smoothly across your value chain is the last reason why it's difficult to calculate your PCF in an accurate manner.
TJ. All right, I want to go ahead and talk about just a little bit about Glassdome period, talk about some of the benefits that come from partnering with you guys and using the Glassdome
Sure.
software.
Yeah. So well, first thing is that we support you calculating PCF in a very accurate manner, and that we also support you go through verification with us. Um, well, with us meaning we handhold and then help you go through verification with your third-party assurance providers. We'll be talking about this later, but what we support is collecting the data from the shop floor and then actually transforming that into an information that could be used in verification or sharing to your regulation or OEMs. Um, so with the data and with the expertise that we have, we help you calculate PCF more accurately and help you actually collect it in a very automatic manner. Second thing that we offer to our clients is that it's basically with our gathered data that we have and then automated data that we have. We help you make data-based decision making for decarbonization. We provide a comprehensive dashboard on where the carbon emission is the most impactful, such as your raw material or electricity. And we provide a software that can analyze what to work on, what to action on, so that your carbon footprint could go lower going forward. So with the data that you have on your hand, you can make better decisions regarding your energy usage, PCF calculations, so on and so forth. And last but not least, we provide a systematic approach for measure, report, and verification, where we collect the data with our data collection technology. We help you uh, create a report with our software and then with our team, and then help you go through verification. And then this kind of framework is what's being asked within the regulation these days. And we help you start that journey with our systematic approach.
TJ. All right, and then talk a little bit more about the value that comes out of the Glassstone platform.
Right. So, um, like I said in a previous slide, what we do is first we go what we're good at is we're very good at collecting data from the factory floor. So from the dispersed and siloed data, what we do is we send our solution deployment team so that they can figure out how to optimize the data gathering for them. And we deploy our solution, our gateway, and then even our data integration team so that we can integrate all the necessary data in calculated PCF into one place. And we collect those data, integrate those data, and combine those data. And once those data are gathered and combined, we utilize our internal PCF consulting arm, to make sure that these data gets to turn into a specific information called PCF in a very accurate manner. And we even utilize external partnerships also to calculate these PCF in a very right manner. And at the end of the day, we help you monitor your PCF and then make sure that you follow the regulation and follow your customers' needs through our software that gets constantly updated based on the regulation, based on the service, based on the needs that the customers have, and make sure you reach your target goal of decarbonization going forward.
Great. All right, so now I'll talk a little bit about the why are we partnering with you guys? And as you've mentioned time and time again, it's a lot of it is it's information that's hard to gather. A lot of people are just like going by email or PDFs and things like that and putting them into spreadsheets. Well, the beauty of using something like the 42Q MES is that you're gathering a lot of this critical data for calculating PCF. You're gathering it already as part of the manufacturing process. So things like the material deviations, any changes in the amount of material that they're taking, the active versus idle energy on your machines. So how long is the machine actually running? How long is it just sitting powered up? Your batch and lot tracking. So understand where the raw materials came from, which supplier, information from there. The energy per unit, so being able to calculate the amount of energy that's being utilized, and then the amount of time it took to build that unit, so you can calculate the energy per unit. Auxiliary materials, so any additional materials that they have to put onto there. Scrap materials, so this goes into a lot of the waste part. So understanding how much stuff is getting scrapped. Rework cycles, how many times are you having to work on a unit multiple times, which is taking additional carbon to go through and build that unit. The cycle time, so how long exactly, and a lot of this goes into calculating that energy per unit, understanding how long it's actually taking to build the unit. And then tooling wear, so how often are you having to change out tools, utilize new materials for that. So all this material, this information you're actually gathering as part of the manufacturing process through the 42Q MES. And so then we can take all of that manufacturing data and share it to Glassdome, and then they can combine it with other things like the electrical grid data, distribution data, use phase data, end of life data, and other data points. So combine that with the manufacturing data, and then that's going to give you those accurate PCF reports within there. So it kind of made sense in the aspect of, we're already gathering a lot of the information that's needed to calculate these. So it's kind of a great partnership to be able to just send that manufacturing data over to you guys and then have you help calculate the PCF for these customers.
Yeah, and to add on that, when we conducted POC with 42Q, we were genuinely surprised by the amount of data that MES actually holds, and how much data we could utilize in calculating PCF. Because sometimes when we go into other factories, their data is actually their data is everywhere. The data that we need to calculate PCF is everywhere. So there's a lot of integration points that we need to have with the client. But with the 42Q using with the factories that's using 42Q. Most of the data points we could actually collect it from MES, and there were some that we had to work manually, but that's natural, I would say, because just the sheer amount of data that we have to collect is vast. But we were genuinely surprised by the coverage of 42Q MES, and how much data we could utilize in calculating PCF from them. So yeah,
And we see that a lot of times too when we're going in and implementing the 42Q MES of these customers, like you're talking about with the data segmentation. They've usually got data in multiple places. Even with a lot of different products, it's different systems that run different things. Whereas 42Q, it's a fully featured MES. So everything is in one place. So that way, whether you're, taking your measurements from your machines, the test equipment, all the way down to the raw materials that are being used, all that's in one location. So it just makes it kind of an easy fit to be able to send that
right,
data over. So absolutely.
correct.
And two, I do want to mention here that towards the end, if you're manufacturing this, watching this, and you're looking at starting your digital transformation journey, maybe, that you need to start looking at the PCF. So one good way to do that is to implement an MES that can allow you to start gathering that data so then it can be used by like Glassdome to be able to calculate that PCF. For the manufacturers out there that are looking to get started in that digital transformation journey, we've got what's called the Digital Factory Accelerator, and this is going to allow you to get one manufacturing line or VSM set up and see the type of information that you can get. Things like the track and trace and genealogy, managing your shop orders, controlling your routes, the defect and repair loops, tracking your cycle time, which again is a big part of calculating PCF. Being able to see the digital work instructions, which is going to get rid of a lot of paper waste. A lot of these huge paper manuals that are out there, you can digitize that and give it to your operators in a digital format within the operator screen. On serialization and standardized reports. So it's a 90-day proof of concept. It's fixed price. It's 30 days to implement, 60 days to validate. And then once we prove out the system to you, you can then expand it over to your other lines, and start building out that full digital factory within there. All right, and so again, here's our contact info for myself with 42Q, and then also TJ's information from Glassdome. So we'd always love for you to reach out if you've got any other questions you want to ask, need additional information, anything like that. And so we'll take some time for questions now. And TJ, we've had a couple questions for you. The first one is, I know it's a requirement in the EU, but how soon do you see product level reporting on carbon footprint being necessary for manufacturers in Asia and North America?
Yeah, so well, first thing that I want to mention is that even though it's a regulation in EU, it's not just it's not just a requirement for the manufacturers in EU. It's actually a global requirement. If you're sending or selling your product in EU, you have to follow these product carbon footprint regulations. So you're not off the hook just because you're not manufacturing in the EU. Uh, and that being said, I am seeing a lot of different regulations popping up both in North America and then also in Asia, specifically to kind of like mimic what's going on in Europe. Because what we can see is that it's actually helping the environmental cause, and then it's actually helping the competitive advantage of these manufacturers by imposing these regulations. So, not specifically for product carbon footprint, but environmental product declaration is becoming more and more important in different sectors in different countries. So, in the US, I know there's a clean buy scheme where you want if you want to provide your product to in the federal proposals or whatnot, you have to provide a EPD, environmental product declaration, and that's sort of like a regulation that's being imposed, just like product carbon footprint, because product carbon footprint is one of the components of EPD. So yeah, so two things. One, even though you're not in Europe, you still have to meet these requirements if you want to sell in Europe. Two is that we do see some movements in both Asia and in the US. Asia is faster than US for sure, but I don't want to say that US has stopped. It's actually still moving in terms of the carbon regulation.
Okay, thanks, CJ. And then we've got one other question for you. Since you talked about the PCF being actionable, can you give an example of a tactical change that a factory might see after seeing their PCF data? So you got an example of something you guys have seen?
Yeah, so one example that I can think of is a factory, is a company that we helped out who has factories in the EU and also in Asia. And what we figured out is even though they were manufacturing a same product with same processes, the one that used renewable energy resulted in a much lower product carbon footprint, about half of the one that's being manufactured in other space. So once they saw that, their eyes kind of opened up and said, "Oh, it's very easy to actually lower our product carbon footprint because our energy's contribution to product carbon footprint is way higher than what we thought. So we can just switch this to a renewable energy to lower our product carbon footprint going forward. Obviously, after seeing that, they had to go through like how much would it cost to change to renewable energy, and then how much renewable energy would actually cost on an ongoing basis or whatnot. But it was a very cool experience for us as well because it actually proved our point that once you start calculating product carbon footprint, you would know where to act on, and then you would actually act on it and then actually start thinking about it. So when they first got their report, that's when they actually start thinking about how to change stuff. So yeah, I think that was a very cool experience for us and for the client as well.
Great. All right, we're at the end of our time. So I want to thank TJ again for joining us and just partnering with us in general. This is a great partnership. So thank you everyone who's joined us today. We'll be posting a recording this on YouTube. I'm sure the Glassdome will be posting a recording this as well. So make sure if you've got any questions about the 42Q MES, you can reach out to myself. And then any questions about Glassdome, TJ's information is there. So he can give you some more information about Glassdome. So thank you again, TJ, and thank you everyone. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Bobby.